Hey guys, welcome to another episode of Around the Table GTA, and this episode is going to be about method. If you haven't watched the ease episode, I'd say go back. This episode is going to be a complement to that episode about ease. So if you haven't checked it out, I suggest that you go back and listen to it, then listen to this as well, especially since even while taking in that episode, listening to it, and even talking about it, I feel that I've used ease in that episode where I could have definitely put more work into that, more context. I just had the thought, I spat it out, and uploaded the episode instead of even trying to go back or even restarting the episode. Sometimes I'll sit there and talk for 20 minutes, and then after, I'm like, you know what? I really don't like how this episode sounds. I'm going to start all over again. And the time just goes away, and it sucks because you want a certain type of content. And then sometimes, if you just really mess up or your thoughts go somewhere else, or you let those intrusive thoughts kick out, then it ruins the whole episode. Some people might notice it, some people will notice it, right? But it is part of a method to do better, right? When you have ease, your structure doesn't seem that great. Even like I've been thinking about it too, where I've been doing this podcast since the end of 2020, and because I haven't really adapted or changed my method up due to ease, I probably don't have as many views as I could be having, right? Especially with the length of time. But even then, going back to ease, it's just that even with ease and even with being somewhat consistent, because I can't say that I've been 100% 100% consistent. I'm not gonna cut that out. These are the things that happen, and then it just like it ruins your flow, and you start all over again. But even without being 100% consistent, or not even really dodgy with it, but I haven't been like weekly consistent all the time, and that's on myself. That's a method, right? That's a method that doesn't work. We know that, especially if you're on the tubes, especially if people are expecting your content. Um, you want to make sure that you're as consistent as possible, right? Sometimes you have dark days, sometimes things are just rough, sometimes you spend an hour making episodes and you just don't like any of your content, so you just scrap it, right? And that's all part of the method to growing, right? To grow, to change, to do better and be better. Sometimes you have to try different things. You have to do things that you might think that you're not really into, and you try it out and you're like, hey, I thought this wasn't too bad, right? A lot of people talk about sushi, for example, where the thought of sushi, or even like poutine, if you're not Canadian, or poitin, however you pronounce it, it sounds gross. You try it, and then it's like, oh, that's amazing. Or you're just like, yep, that's why I didn't want to try it, because it's nasty, right? You need to develop a method that works for you. And for me, I have to, I guess, I have to think of the long term benefits and goals for the podcast itself too, right? I remember initially talking to a friend who I still talk to, right, about the podcast. They even did a podcast for a bit, and they were talking to me about, doing IG Reels or going on TikTok just to get my presence out, right? And that was at the time where I started uploading on Spotify. But, due to ease of just doing an episode and sticking to the method that I already have, my audience hasn't grown that much. I even tried a twist by mixing videos with the stuff that I do outside of the podcast, or when I'm outside, because in the summertime, back outside, boys. I'm outside, especially since last year I got off nights. So I used that opportunity to do whatever and whenever I could, right? Just to enjoy life. And that's the point of life to an extent. You can't always enjoy life, but you always want to try to find the best way to live, right? Some days aren't going to be the greatest, but some days are going to be so awesome that you're never going to even think of why you would have thought anything dark, because life is just so great. And this is going back to method. I did an episode on like the Bop It method. A lot of people didn't watch that, and when I mean like a lot of people didn't watch it, I think only one person checked it out. But that's fine. Um, not everything is gonna be a hit. Some things are gonna miss. I remember that when I started, at least the um, wow. See, I'm lost in thought there. Maybe I'll. Nah, I'm not even gonna cut that out. You guys are gonna get everything raw, just for the next couple of episodes, guys. But when I started doing the guest episodes, that tripled my daily views, pretty much, right? So that was great, but it's hard to connect with people, especially when you get to a certain age, especially when people have certain responsibilities, like myself and others, where time is so precious and we don't realize it. And this is going back to method, where these companies, they want to take up as much time as possible because it's profit for them. And that's not saying you shouldn't consume whatever, but you should be aware of what you're consuming. And if you guys did pay attention to my social media, I disappeared. Some people were worried that something happened to me or whatever. Even like someone keeps asking me how I'm doing or if I'm okay or whatever. I'm okay, and I appreciate the ask and everything too. Right? It's great to know that people care about you, even if it's an anonymous person online. It gives you hope of a better future for the world, especially with how people are viewing things and how people are expressing themselves in such a negative way. It's crazy. Like this morning, I sent my friend this video, and it's just a person like on the beach running around barking at people. It's just like a grown ass woman just doing some wonky ass stuff, and it's just like, sometimes you want to wake up to something random. Imagine waking up and seeing a video like that. It's either gonna get a "what the heck is wrong with this person" or like, "oh my days." It just it'll change the mood of your day, right? And that's all into method. You want to find the best method for you to grow, for you to appreciate things, for you to carry on in this life that we don't know what might happen, right? This might be my last podcast episode, right? So if this is my last message, I'd want it to serve the purpose of my podcast, which is for self-awareness and to change your mindset, or make you even focus on things that you might have not thought about, because the world is so complex in that sense. Even going back to method, which is the topic I'm talking about, method after method after method. That's the point of this episode. So it won't be one method. It'll be whatever comes to mind when I bring up the word. A method that I did start using, I mentioned it on an older episode, is that now when I do my podcast episodes, every once in a while, I'll just keep my headphones on or my headset on, because I get into a certain flow, and sometimes I get a little bit concerned because it's partially noise canceling, so I don't know how loud I'm talking, right? But when I put them on, I feel a lot more comfortable. I think it's just because it normalizes the fact that I'm not really talking to anybody, right? Unless I do have a guest episode. But if you play games online and stuff and you have your headset on, most of the time you are talking to people, right? So I guess it adds another level of comfort, which improves the method of the podcast. I guess I seem to have more energy in this episode compared to other episodes, even if you guys might not know, I do a couple of episodes at a time sometimes. So you couldn't tell if I did this episode right after another one, or I made like 5 different thoughts and I cut up all of that into separate episodes. That's a lot of work, right? But sometimes it's something that you need because you only have so much time, and I already know that I might get lazy in editing, so sometimes I edit it right away, even if it's going to cost me something after, because I know a method that works for me, and I want to get my best work out there because I'm trying to make sure that people do get the message. And that's a method that I use, and a lot of other methods were mentioned in this episode. I just think I'm gonna end the episode here. Yeah, I guess I'm gonna end the episode here. Let me know what methods you use for whatever, whether it's a method before a game, whether it's a method before work, whether it's a method to, go to bed or whatever, even if it's a method to improve different aspects of your life. Let's add more to the conversation. It feels weird when I'm talking and I'm sending this stuff out and no one's really responding. It does affect me, but at the same time, you know, sometimes people just like to listen to stuff. Not everybody as is as opinionated as myself, right? Sometimes it takes a while for words to sink in. So, anyways, hopefully you guys did like this episode about method. Hope you guys share it, and if it's on a platform that has any likes or whatever, feel free to like it. Feel free to share it with a friend, and hopefully this message helps you out with whatever you're dealing with. Take care.